video, new challenge. In this video, we're going to learn how to TIG weld.
All right, new try. Yes! Nice!
I have to admit that was overwhelming for me to think about starting TIG welding without any guidance. So I've looked around and I actually remembered a guy that I follow for quite a while now who's called Dusty, and he runs a channel called Pacific Arc TIG Welding, which is amazing. He has a lot of tutorials on his YouTube channel, and the best thing is that he actually has an online course that teaches people how to TIG weld. It's not super cheap, it's $385, but we'll see if it's money well spent. It's a skill that I need for building the BMW, and I want to properly learn the skill and not start and develop bad habits and stuff like that. So let's jump in because there's quite a lot to learn. I have to admit that I already went ahead and watched a few of the first lessons, which for you is actually good because there were quite a few things to get. Let me show you. The most important thing you need to get, besides the welder, is something to weld. And this actually turned out harder than I thought it would. I did some research because I didn't know anything about this, and don't quote me on this, this is just my rough understanding. I'm gonna link you 2 articles down below that have helped me kind of understand it. But here's a short summary. To better classify the different types of aluminum, the Aluminum Association established a system that basically categorizes the different types. And it consists of 6 different major categories. The main takeaway for us is that the 5000 and 6000 series are the best weldable. So those are the ones that we can focus on, and Dusty actually recommends 2 specific ones, the 5086 and 6061. From a different course, I know that the 6061 is very common in automotive fabrication. I'm going to talk about that course in a future video. So if you can, get the 6061, because then you can practice on the one that's actually used for motorcycles and cars. But I had to find out that that is easier said than done. I don't know if I've looked in the wrong places, but for now, for the practice runs, I got a different aluminum, which is all classified as 5083. They are all 80 by 750 millimeters. I got 2 that are 6 millimeter thick, 4 that are 3 millimeters thick. And I don't know how practical these 2 thin ones will be. So 2 millimeters and 1 millimeter are relatively thin, but I just wanted to have the option to try that and see how it behaves. One thing I noticed when buying the aluminum plates is that prices can differ a lot from shop to shop, but also from size to size. What I noticed is that when going a bit longer, the price will increase dramatically. So I figured out the sweet spot with 750 millimeters, which gives us 5 coupons to work with. But definitely make sure that you consider that and play around with the numbers a bit, because you might be shocked by the price because it's not cheap. I've paid for the 10 pieces 182 euros. One thing that I had to get is a fire extinguisher. I never used one. I hope I will not need to use one, but that's definitely better than running a gardening hose into the shed that I've used to do when MIG welding. Because when welding, you definitely have to make sure that you don't burn your workshop, which is also why I've built these cabinet doors where I can store all the flammable cans and liquids behind. Regarding the safety gear, it's important to have welding gloves. I already have those from the MIG welder, but if you don't have them, get some that have thin leather so you can actually feel what you're doing. The last few things that I had to get are all used to prepare the aluminum for welding, because preparation is actually quite a big part in TIG welding. To clean the aluminum, I've got some acetone. This is applied with these microfiber cloths. And the last thing I had to get were these stainless steel wire brushes. I know it's quite a lot, so I'm gonna link everything down below. If you want to get into TIG welding, you can just check out the links. It might be a waste to already cut all of the pieces. Dusty didn't specify a number of coupons that you use, probably because it's very individual how fast you learn, how well you do the different exercises. So what I'm gonna start with is one of the 6 millimeter plates and then 2 of the 3 millimeter plates. So even though it doesn't really matter for this project because those are just practice pieces, I'm gonna use these soft vice jaw brackets that you can just simply place on your vice, and then the soft aluminum won't get any scrapes or marks. All right, this step might seem unnecessary, and maybe it is, but I'm deburring all of the edges because they're just so sharp that it makes it much more pleasant to work with. So each coupon has the same layout, which creates a 1 centimeter border all around and then 3 equally spaced guidelines. With all of the coupons ready to go, we're going to continue tomorrow. The next things on the list are machine setup, tungsten preparation, and the cleaning of the parts before we can finally start to weld. All right, welcome back. I've just watched the lesson on how to clean the aluminum plates, and that's basically what we're going to do now. The preparation of these parts is actually quite meticulous. Just brushed over these 3 guidelines that I've marked yesterday. Next up, we have to set up the machine. Mine is basically already put together. The only thing that's left to do is to hook up the new gas bottle. So we're gonna do that first, and then I'm gonna run you through how the rest is set up. This doesn't really seem to fit. All right, looks like we have a little problem. Maybe there's like an O-ring missing, like a seal or something like that. So what I'm thinking is that I'm gonna check with the other welding machine and see. Okay, it's the same here. I've done a quick trip to the hardware store and I picked up some sealing rings from the sanitary section. They don't have the 100% right diameters, but I hope that they will fit. I guess I was too confident that that will work. I think I go to the specialist store, see what they have. Nice, we might have a solution. It was this little white seal that was missing on my pressure regulator. Let's see if it actually makes a difference. Do you know how I didn't notice that this seal was actually missing? It's because on the other pressure regulator it's also missing. I picked up 2 now. Let's see. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. All right. That's a relief. It's actually not bad that I had to take everything back off, because now I can show you how the machine is actually set up. And it's pretty straightforward. We start with a torch, which goes on here. The hose twists a bit. I just untangle that afterwards. The original torch that came with the machine had a finger trigger, but Dusty from the TIG welding course actually recommends to use a foot pedal because you have way more control. That's the next thing that we're gonna connect, and it just goes into here. And the last thing we need to connect is the earth or ground cable, and that just goes in here. That's already the machine set up. So since I don't have a welding table, I'm just going to use this galvanized steel plate. The next lesson is to set up the torch.
Most commonly 3/32 of an inch or 2.4 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch or 3.2 millimeters is going to be the most common stuff you'll come across.
I only have 2.4 and I hope that the color is right. Okay. Gold, nice. Okay, yeah, that works. The machine came with a lot of spare parts and I'm just trying to figure out which to use to set up the torch properly. This is everything I got with the machine, and there are basically 2 types of gas diffusion setups. One that has this little net on there that diffuses the gas, or these ones that have the holes in there. These are more beginner friendly, and everything works around the tungsten size. These are the 2 diffusion systems. Since this one is a bit more beginner friendly, I'm going to choose this one. We start by screwing the collet body in, then drop in the inner collet sleeve, screw on the back cap halfway, screw on the cup, and then put in the tungsten. But next we have to prepare the tungstens, which basically just means to put a taper on one side. Once that is done, we can start welding, but I'm gonna do that tomorrow because it already was a long day. I'll quickly put those tapers on and then see you tomorrow. All right, so now that everything is prepared, let's see what the first lesson has in store. I have noticed 2 things that might cause problems. Yesterday evening, I checked which style of torch I actually have. And this one only has a capacity of 150 amps. We just start with this and then see how we get along. The other thing that I've noticed is that this foot pedal that came with the machine, the guy said that he built it himself. And I noticed that this is only a on and off switch, I guess. So this might also be a problem because the course is designed to have a foot pedal where you can actually control the amperage. What I've seen on the machine is that there are actually two connectors for the foot pedal. One is, I guess, the on and off, which is connected now, and then there's a 3-pin connector, which I think is for the amperage. Anyways, we're just going to start with the setup that we have and see how far we get.
So you ready to watch a demo? Our wrist locked to the edge of the table or perhaps our hand. But one of the most important things,
I guess we'll find out very soon whether the machine actually works or the setup, because we need to form a little ball on the end of the tungstens. And to do so, we need to manage the amps very well. I'm going to spend a few minutes figuring out the settings of the machine and then we do the test. Okay, nothing happens. Right, I can't get that to work. So two things I think I'm gonna do. The foot pedal just arrived in the mail. Oh, I'm so excited. Let's hope that this one works. I've also watched a few videos about whether you actually have to ball the tungsten and how it works and stuff like that. And apparently balling the tungsten is actually more of a habit, basically, from older days. Nowadays, apparently you don't need to do that anymore as long as your balance is set correctly. So I've sharpened the tungsten a bit more and then I'm just gonna try out to weld without balling the tungsten. If you want to watch the video, I'll link it down below so you can make up your own mind. I'm just gonna try it and see what happens, because the ball might form anyway, so we'll see. So that goes under here. Nice. Right, let's see how it goes. What's happening is that my art goes all over the place and I get something like this, like a big circle of just cleaning action, but not really a puddle is forming. Those are apparently called stray arcs. I think I just rewatched the lesson from Dusty and then see if I do everything correctly or if I make mistakes.
So one of the most common things I see when teaching this one is having a puddle that is not fully formed. This can be referred to as a couple things.
That's me.
I've referred to it as a shy arc before.
Which basically just means that I don't give the puddle enough time to properly form. So maybe a bit of patience is good. I'll just try again and stay on for a bit longer. Oh, I thought I just overheated the machine, but the power is out. There we go. I think I'll have to not use, because I have two heaters, I think I have to keep those unplugged while actually welding. The thing is, like, look at my last two. This one I stayed on so long and it didn't really form a puddle. I kind of don't know what to do at the moment, actually. I guess I just have to watch YouTube, Google. I've done some Googling. I'm not much smarter, I have to say. There are quite a lot of things that could be checked, ruled out, whatever. The first thing I'm gonna do is try the original torch, the machine, or that came with the machine. See if it makes any difference and then go from there. Because until I get a real puddle, I can't continue with the course. There's so many other people out there that know how to weld, so why shouldn't I learn it? All of that's connected. Wow. It looks to me as if we're getting much more power, because look at this. Yeah, I need to figure out what's wrong with this now, but that looks way more promising. Oh, I was in DC mode. No wonder that doesn't work. Balance 0, which means 70 negative, 30 positive. Frequency also like somewhere around the middle. And amps is 100.
Yes! Nice!
Nice!
Woo! Nice!
Look at that. That is the first one that looks something close to what it has to look like. Oh, that is amazing. Nice. I'm so happy. That is great. That actually looks good. Success. Oh, it took so long to get here. Dude, all right. So now we can finally start with the course and properly learn something. I mean, like, we've learned something setting up the machine. I don't know what the difference between the torches is, but that is amazing. I've changed nothing. I've sharpened the tungsten. It has boiled up right there, just a tiny bit. So now we're just gonna do the first lesson, which basically is taking a plate and making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 puddles. With the first lesson, what I'm looking for is good posture, already having the filler rod where it later has to be, so that you're not blocking your view with your hands, holding the torch relatively close. So the standoff distance, the distance between the torch and the workpiece should be not more than the width of your tungsten. Also making sure that the torch angle is right. I'm actually gonna keep using this scrap metal piece just to get used to what happens when I fire the arc. I have TIG welded before once, but it's all still very new, and I just need to get used to it first. So what's happening here? It's strange because sometimes the arc doesn't establish, it doesn't fire off. It should have a good connection there. This should have a good connection. I'm not getting an arc. Let me see if I hook this up right to there. That makes a difference. No. Okay, so I notice I need to press a lot harder to get an arc. I don't understand. It's like very inconsistent in the response. There we go. That is getting better. Let me rewatch the lesson and the troubleshooting and evaluate what I'm actually doing, because now I have quite a different result from before. This one, just for reference, is the first one. This puddle being the best one. That's actually looking very textbook-like. Now I'm getting something like this with big cleaning circles around, not too shiny puddles, but at least it's somewhat close to what we're expecting to get. I think I just need to figure out why the cleaning action is so big, and then yeah, just go from there. Looking at the lesson and the pictures in it, what I think I need to do, or what I at least want to try, is just stay on it a little bit longer so the puddle can actually form. Nice. Nice, that's a good one. I do form dips, which basically means what it says. There's a little dip in the middle, which comes from letting go of the foot pedal too quickly. But I feel like I'm relatively slow and nothing happens going back, and then it just like shuts off. I don't want to blame it on the material just yet, because I've just made like 3 things, but it might be. Ah. Alright, it's kind of frustrating with the foot pedal, because if I want to initiate the arc, the first bit doesn't do anything, it just sets off the gas. And then when I let go, before I'm fully off the pedal, it already stops the arc. But look at these My first 9 puddles, this is the cleaning action, and then you don't want this one to touch the puddle, which here, for example, is very nice. These dots in the middle are the dips that I was talking about. On these 2, I wasn't long enough on the pedal, and that one is the one that got really, really hot. And on the back side, you can see how it actually burned through. But the others are relatively good, I would say. This is a 3mm plate, so I'm happy with that. I'm just gonna run through a few more plates, practice a bit more, and then see if it improves at all. I would like to improve with letting go of the foot pedal. I don't know if it's me or the foot pedal. We'll figure that out. They're all quite good. I noticed that the ball at the tungsten, the tiny ball, is forming to one side, and that's where the arc curve is more prone to go to. But apart from that, it looks pretty good to me. This is the second plate. I'm gonna do another one with the same tungsten, where the arc is actually kind of wandering off already. I might actually try to ball this up a bit more. Yo, that worked so good. Now let's try if this little ball actually makes it more focused. All right, before I continue like this, I want to check if taking a new tungsten makes a difference. So that works much, much better for me, not having the ball. Because let me show you the difference. This one is with a round tungsten, this one is with a round tungsten. What happens to me is that the arc starts to wander all over the place. I think I'm gonna do 2 or 3 more plates, then I'm gonna call it a day and continue tomorrow. But I'm very, very happy with the progress. It has taken quite a while to come this far, but now I feel like we start to make some progress. I'm gonna have a look at the lesson in a bit and just compare them to what they are supposed to look like. I feel like they're pretty close to that. I had the feeling that on the last ones, especially here at the bottom, the arc went towards me and pulled the puddle that way as well. Oh yeah, again, the ball formed on just one side. It makes such a big difference. Like the first ones with the fresh tungsten, look at how round the puddle is, look at how nice the cleaning action has formed. It's not touching the puddle, it's not super widespread. I don't know what happens, it wanders all over the place. Same tungsten, just the second and third try. That one was the first one, the good one. Second one, third one. The first ones are always the best. We have 6 plates with relatively good puddles. That's the last one. These try to pull down again. With all of that done, I'm gonna call it a day and we continue tomorrow. It has taken quite a while to get to this point, but I'm very confident that the next lessons will go well. Tomorrow we're gonna move the puddle along and then see how far we get. All right, welcome back guys. Yesterday I read online a few things and I was like, what about getting a welding table? Well, obviously with the BMW build at the moment, the budget is quite tight. So I'm not gonna get a welding table, but I looked up whether welding on galvanized steel could lead to reduced ground clamp functionality, however you say that in English. What I came across, and that sparked my mind again, was that actually welding galvanized steel is pretty toxic. I didn't think about that when I put this plate down because I thought I'm not welding it, but obviously it gets hot as we noticed yesterday. So I'm gonna switch this one out for this little plate. It should be big enough for these little aluminum plate jobs. So another thing that I noticed is that I'm already down to 140. Normally it sits at 200 when the bottle is full. So just from using it yesterday, I'm already at 140. That's because I've used way too much argon yesterday. I didn't notice that there are 2 different scales. I knew that they existed, but I didn't check. What Dusty recommends is a working pressure of 15 to 20 CFH, cubic feet per hour of argon. And what the pressure regulator states is liters per minute. So liters per minute is basically half of cubic feet per hour. I basically set everything to double the amount. Now we're good. I hope that I don't burn through this bottle that quickly now. One thing that I also read is that you have to be very careful when using a steel plate, and this one is actually super thin. This is just 2 millimeters on a wooden table, because as the steel plate gets hot, the wood can start to, I don't know the English word, but not really burn, but start to like almost burn. And then once you're done welding and you leave the shop, it might start actually catch fire and you don't notice it. So be careful with that. We still have 7 plates left, and I'm super excited for today because we can actually get into the more advanced lessons. Right, first one of the day. That doesn't look too bad. Okay, so first plate, I can't get it to work on 3 of the points. I don't know what happens, but when I change the tungsten, maybe this is just coincidence, but I tend to get luckier with it. I've just did a frequency test basically, where I went through all of the different frequency settings. I just want to do that to see what each of the settings actually does. And I went from -2 all the way up to +5. This is the result of the frequency test. And I feel like they're looking quite nice. I've just finished the last 2 plates that I had left. And what I just noticed, it might just be coincidence, but when I get close with the filler rod, I can actually kind of like help initiate the arc. At least it feels like the arc wants to establish easier when I'm like close with the filler rod. And then I also have the suspicion that the filler rod might create these deformed little balls on the tungsten tip. What I think might happen is that the arc wants to grab onto the filler rod, and that's why it kind of like moves in one direction and it's not very uniform. What I'll try to do in the next exercise is to actually see whether the filler rod can help with the initiation of the arc, and whether it makes a difference when I'm close to the puddle or when I don't use the filler rods, what the tungsten looks like afterwards. I just rewatched the lesson and then we can see what we have to do.
All right, this will be the first exercise where we will be taking your new skill of developing and forming a proper puddle and manipulating it to follow a line.
All right, I think we're ready to start the first real path. 2 things to keep in mind. For one, it's the angles of the torch, 15 degrees travel angle, not tilting it this way or that way. The filler rod is at 90 degrees, roughly 90 degrees to the torch. It's recommended to start with the last position where you want to stop as the most comfortable one, and then move towards the start. And then also the filler rod hand stays in place. I thought it would like move with it. So what I'm going to try is to blend into the first puddle and at the second puddle, trying to stay as close to the lines as possible. All right, don't forget to switch to AC and let's go. That got really hot very quickly. I think 3 millimeters is relatively thin to start with. Anyways, let's do the second pass. I might need to reduce the total amount of amps I can put out. Nice, okay. So that is way more controlled. It might have been a little bit too cold because I didn't touch the lines, but let me show you the difference. This is my first path. You can see there is some contamination going on here. And then I think I got a little hot in the end. I don't know if the cleaning action is actually enough. That might be a problem, but I'll look at the troubleshooting section in just a bit. Here's the second run that I've done. And this is the third one with the reduced amps. So I'm now at 100 amps. Before I was at 140, and it's much more consistent. Also, the cleaning action looks a bit nicer. I'll play around with that, but I'm happy with how it connected here, with how it connected there. It's nice. Let's do a few more. I feel like with the course, with the structure of the lessons, it makes a big difference compared to when I just tried TIG welding on my own in Norway. It gives me a nice structure and I see that I'm making progress. So yeah, we have a few more plates to go. This is my 6th path on this thicker plate. And I noticed that with the 100 amps, I was kind of struggling to get enough heat into the material. So it took a while to properly form a puddle. And I was like, really struggling. And even then, with the first few centimeters, I was still struggling. So I was moving like super slowly. Towards the middle, it got better and I could move a little bit better. And then also the end was much easier to control the heat. So this is what it looks like. Here's the start. It blends in nicely. The cleaning action is very nice and consistent on both sides. The dip is very minimal. The puddle is nice and shiny. I feel like it has a nice consistent structure to it. So that one I would say is my best so far. I like that. I've quickly watched the troubleshooting part of the lesson, and what I noticed is that little cleaning action actually means that the weld is getting too hot. I noticed that on the first ones. We can see with this one, with the thicker one, the last one, the cleaning action is good. Like it has a good size. With the smaller plates, I need to travel much quicker and maybe reduce the amps a bit more. Look at the difference. That's the first one that got really hot. And that's the fourth one I did. Also on a thin plate, but it's much better regarding the heat. So that's what I'm gonna focus on now. What I'm also doing is I'm labeling all of my paths so I know which one I did when. I write down the amps that I use and something that I might need to look out for in the future, or like a little info for myself. And then I'm just taking a picture of all of these so I can reference them back. Oh, and by the way, if you're looking for a really nice workshop pen, the Edding 8850. I really like this pen. So now, since I want to reduce the heat, I noticed that I can't reach the scribe lines anymore. That one was a good one. That one was very consistent. That is number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, number 12. Helping to establish the arc with the filler rod makes a big difference. I'm very happy with how this is going. So I finished the next run of paths and it's going very good. I've increased the heat on the thick plate to 120. That worked much better. I still could control the puddle very well, move it along, control the width. And then on the thinner plates, I tried to reduce the heat input. By that, I had to make smaller weld puddles than the scribe lines that I had. But I also remembered that I have used the same layout for both thicknesses, and Dusty actually recommends to use narrower guidelines for the smaller plates. So that's no problem. I'm just gonna stick a little bit inside of the two lines, but I'm still looking to have a very uniform width. So I managed to do that on most of them. It heats up, everything heats up a lot. So I've actually put 3 square tubes underneath the welding plate just to let cold air underneath there and prevent the wood from heating up. So I think that should be okay now. It works well. So I've just had a look through all of these different plates, and I just want to show you the difference in heat input and burn through between path 1 and 8. Just listening to kind of like the goal section at the end of the lesson, what we are looking for and what kind of depends on what, has made such a big difference. I think it might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but 1 is very inconsistent. Like there are no real puddles. It's more like a wobbly up and down. This one has actually a nice riffle structure to it, and you can actually see that in the back because that's the burn through of path 1 and that is the burn through of path 8. So quite a big difference. So I'm now gonna finish these 5 plates and then show you the results. Something I notice I need to keep in mind is that with aluminum it doesn't really matter, but with welding steel you need to keep the filler rod shielded as well as the tungsten. What I often do is I keep the torch still, but then put the filler rod away to already lift up the hood. I need to get that habit out, or not let that become a habit. So What I want to focus on now is to keep both in a very steady position at the end, have both shielded, and then take it off once the post flow is done. All right, the second lesson is done. I've put down 36 relatively consistent paths. The cleaning action looks relatively good on all of them. I was able to keep a good width, which was mostly consistent. There were like 3 or 4 in there that were a little odd, but after doing the first paths and then actually watching the part of the lesson where Dusty explains what to look out for and what to maybe change helped a lot. For me specifically, it was the heat input into the plate. On this plate you can see very well that the more I practice, the better I got with the heat input. I get more and more used to initiating the arc using the filler rod. Probably not the right way, but it works. I also get used to the foot pedal ranges, and I know kind of at which point it might shut off, so that only happened a few times. All in all, I'm super happy. I'm very happy with the course, with the structure it gives me. And since there's so much in that course that I want to learn and that Dusty provides, I'm going to split this video up in 2 parts. So the first part now has been the setup and the first welds, and then the next will be where we start introducing the filler rod and doing more complicated joints where we actually put plates together. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you can learn something from my learning experience. I hope it helps you on your way to learn TIG welding, or it was at least entertaining. If you haven't already, make sure to follow so you can watch the next part as well. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.